Here we go in three, two, one.
What is up, folks, and welcome back to the Vol Talk podcast. You're here with myself, Blake, and my brother Austin right there. And, folks, we apologize. It's been a little bit of a delay. Austin and I have both been pretty ill the past week and a half. It's been kind of rough, not going to lie. We were just talking before we started recording about whatever plague is spreading all across East Tennessee. It seems to have hit everyone, so I don't know if that's the case where y'all live, but for most of our viewers who are probably here in East Tennessee, you probably know exactly what we're talking about. But please forgive me in particular if I cough at any point during this podcast. It's still possible for sure. Still trying to get fully well. But hey, we're here in the land of the living, and honestly, Austin, we were kind of once again avoiding the situation because of another loss to Kentucky, which is really, really frustrating, really, really tough. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But we did get a win on the road against Oklahoma, and we'll also be talking about a little bit of baseball this episode.
Yeah, I guess we're going to start with the good news. The Oklahoma win was a solid win. I actually forgot Oklahoma at some point during the season before SEC play was one of the last undefeated teams with us. It was a solid win. Unfortunately, the Kentucky game happened afterwards. But, yeah, man, Oklahoma game on the road against, like I said, a pretty solid opponent. Zakai had another great game. Zakai's been on fire recently, honestly. Ever since he's gotten hurt, dude. It's honestly, I'm starting to think like he's when he got hurt, he honestly is taking it as like a second chance now. Because like if he got hurt that time, his basketball career was over, and now it's like almost like a second chance for him to kind of make the most of the last few weeks of basketball he has to play. So. And Chaz finally showed up on the road. I mean, that was unexpected, but then he came back to life in the Kentucky game, and that's kind of what's in my mouth right now. That's the taste left in my mouth right now is his horrendous performance against Kentucky, but he was really good against Oklahoma. And Igor Milicic didn't put up the numbers, the traditional numbers. Okay, he only had 8 points against Oklahoma. But only on 5 shots, dude. Only on 5 shots. He was super efficient. Was, again, stuffing the stat sheet in his limited opportunity in the Oklahoma game. And we were in control of that game most of the game as well. That's also notable. Like, we got up pretty big early, thanks to Chaz and Zakai. So, we kind of went deeper into the depth chart. We didn't need as much production from Igor. But yeah, overall, solid win on the road. Great offensive performance. One of our better offensive performances on the year.
Yeah, it was nice to see a road win and where Chaz is showing up, at least in SEC play. We talked about how preseason, he showed up on the road against non-SEC opponents, but it was severely lacking on the road in the SEC. So he showed up for that. That was good to see. And yeah, like you said, Milicic, he only put up 8 points, but we are still very high on the Milicic stock, and everyone else should be too. We are believers in this house of Igor Milicic Jr. So yeah, pretty solid win against Oklahoma, and like you said though, yes, it's nice to get a road win against Oklahoma, but unfortunately we stayed on the road against Kentucky and did not get the result that we wanted. The past few years had been kind of trading licks with Kentucky, right? Like they would, win against, like we would just split it down the middle, or a couple years we've, taken both games against Kentucky in the regular season. But unfortunately, finally, in what seems like a long time, I don't know the exact year that the last time that this has happened, but finally they got 2 wins against us in the regular season. Not great.
Yeah. Congrats to the Kentucky fans. If there's going to be any Kentucky trolls, then I'll probably title this video like in a way that won't draw in Kentucky fans. I'll just leave this to the Vol fans. Don't really feel like getting trolled by a bunch of Kentucky fans. Congrats to them, man. Congrats. Hang the banner. You beat Tennessee twice in a basketball season. You were better at us at one sport. Not any other sport, but this year better at basketball. And I could complain about the refs. I'm not going to do it. My biggest complaint in this game was the performance of Chaz Lanier. But I'll start with the positive. And I said Zakai because I was talking about the Oklahoma game, our brief Oklahoma review, how Zakai had another great game. Once again, Zakai played really well against Kentucky on the road. Super efficient shooting the ball. He wasn't as dangerous from three. In fact, he didn't hit a three, but he was, again, extremely efficient shooting, 7 for 11, and doing his thing, running the offense, 6 assists. And again, what he does defensively can't be understated. And Igor, okay, Igor really was keeping us in this game, dude. That's a fact. If in the second half, when Kentucky could not miss a shot, okay, they couldn't. It was just like in TBA where they just can't miss against us. I don't know what it is this year. It was frankly feels a little bit unlucky when the other team is shooting like 30-foot threes and just can't miss a shot. But again, there was a stretch in the second half where Igor was taking the game over, dude. Like, unlike I've seen a Tennessee player do this year, dude. Like, that's, like, ISO ball, just get the ball in Igor's hands, he's going to make a play. That's what he did. And then they took him out most of the second half. I was just completely, I was pissed. I'll be honest. I was not happy. Yeah. I was not happy. There was a good 5 to 7 minute stretch in the second half where Igor was not in the game. And guess what? That's when Kentucky made the lead insurmountable. At that point, we can't come back. I was so confused, man. Like, and Chaz was just continuing to throw up threes that were breaking off the backboard, just completely useless offensively. Had one of the worst defensive. I mean, I've talked about how his defense isn't good all year. I mean, one of the worst defensive performances ever, dude. Every time I was watching him play defense, it's just like he's nowhere to be found. Literally nowhere to be found. Can't stay on this guy whatsoever. Jumps at any little bitty pump fake, so he gets, or a lot of dudes are able to make him commit a foul in that way. He was a liability in the game, dude. When he's 3 of 13, and I get, like, we just talked about the Oklahoma game, and he's capable of 20 points. But like, it's just the volatility, man. It's like 20 points or complete liability, the reason you lose the game. Like, the reason you lose the game. And I haven't really felt that way. Like, the end of the Vanderbilt game, I gave him a lot of crap for just the clutch performance in that game. But I haven't really felt like there is a game where I can pinpoint, okay, this is the reason we lost. It really feels like to me, this, and it might be an overreaction, but it's how I felt in the game. Chaz Lanier was the reason we lost the game. Like, and why is he getting those opportunities down the stretch when Igor is, and I know I'm the biggest Igor fanboy, dude, but he's 6 for 9. He only took 9 shots. And he had 16 points and 9 rebounds. When Chaz Lanier's taking 13 shots and scores 10 points. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Like, Igor needs those opportunities, okay? Because he can score the basketball in so many different ways than Chaz Lanier can. Plus, he is better in every other aspect of the game. He sees the floor. He can make a great pass. And he's also a great defender. And obviously, Chaz wasn't in for Igor. It wasn't like a 1-for-1 kind of thing. A lot of times they're on the court at the same time. My only point is, in those crucial moments in the second half, Chaz Lanier was given the opportunities, which is befuddling. It's completely befuddling. Look what's happening on the court. Look what's happening on the court. I was extremely frustrated coming out of the Kentucky game. Both the Kentucky games this year have completely frustrated me. And my biggest takeaway from this game was like, dude, if Chaz isn't hitting threes, just bench him. Just don't play him.
Right.
Just don't play him. You know what I'm saying?
Because like you said, he becomes a liability if
becomes a liability.
If he's shooting and can't hit because he also is not playing defense.
That's exactly right, dude. He does not play defense. And he tries. It's not for lack of effort. He does try to play defense. He's just not good at it. And that's fine. And listen, I'm not saying like Chaz Lanier should be like cut from the team or like should never play again. But you can tell, like, he is very obvious. It's so obvious to know when Chaz is going to have a good game, dude. Like, does the first 3 fall? If the first 3 falls, congrats, you're getting a 20-plus Chaz game, and you're probably going to win. But if it doesn't, you're likely in for a long night of him jacking up threes, bricking them and playing terrible defense, while a guy like Igor has now shown there's a stretch of games, dude. Just go look at the field goal percentage. Go look at just any advanced metric. You'll see that Igor is playing really good basketball and is not given enough opportunities in those moments. And just like he had 27 minutes to Chaz Lanier's 31. Why? Why? Like, I need an explanation. Was like Igor tired? Maybe Igor was tired. Maybe he was hurt at some point in the game. I can tell you he wasn't in foul trouble. He had one foul. He had one foul. And there's literally a stretch in the second half where he is elevating the team. Like, literally, like, every time he's getting the ball, he's making a play. And so that to me, and you know, there was a lot of blame to go around. It's not just Chaz. Like, you know, Danny played terrible, like, not great. He didn't have a great game. But, like, dude, 13 shots to 9 shots, and one guy is just a much better basketball player. In every, like, we can't even say Chaz is yes, Chaz is a better shooter from 3. Most games, not all games, but most games. Everything else, though, dude. And again, they don't even play the same position, but why is he playing more minutes? And Zakai played 35 minutes. It's like, well, of course, Zakai's your best player. I get that. Why is Igor only in for 27 minutes? Have you not been watching him the last 4 games? And I don't know. Maybe it's a coaching thing. Maybe it was just he was tired. He couldn't play anymore. But I just felt like, dude. And there was even a time during that stretch in the second half where he wasn't playing, where Kentucky went to the foul line, and we still didn't substitute him in. So it wasn't even like you didn't have an opportunity to substitute him in. You just chose not to, after he literally was the reason you stayed in the game. So that was extremely frustrating. And dude, listen, sorry.
Is it possible that the injuries that he had a couple weeks ago?
Well, remember, he was just sick.
He was just sick. That's what we were told. I mean, was it true though? You know.
Yeah, I mean, he came back in, dude.
Yeah, because he came back in and then he played well the next couple weeks. I mean.
Yeah, I think they just made a mistake, man. I think they again managed the game poorly. I mean, Chaz Lanier's 0 for 7 from 3, and Igor's 3 for 4, and Igor passes the ball and plays better defense.
Right.
Like,
there's no reason not to. I mean,
there's no reason when one guy has 4 more. I'm telling you, Chaz shouldn't have had 20 minutes in this game, dude. He's just out there doing nothing. He's out there doing nothing. He's hurting the team. And when you got another guy in there who's, listen, I mean, I don't know. It didn't make any sense. I mean, Jemai Meshack, 27 minutes, 0 points. A lot of dudes would clown a guy for a stat line like that. Meshack was infinitely more valuable than Chaz Lanier in this game. Infinitely more valuable. And he had 0 points because Meshack knows his role. Chaz knows his role. He's just not consistent at all. He can't consistently hit the 3-point shots we need him to hit. And
he can't fulfill his role. He knows his role, but he can't fulfill it all the time.
He can't fulfill it, and I honestly think, not just that, I think the coaching staff expected him to be able to score in different ways, and he just can't. He's just not capable of doing it, and that's just the reality, dude. He's not, and I'm happy we have him on the team. Let me be clear. Even though it seems like the last 10 minutes I'm clearly not happy to have him on the team, but I am. Like, it's valuable to have a guy like in the Oklahoma game who can put up 20 points. It's valuable to have a guy like that. But when you have a whole first half of evidence and a beginning of the second half of evidence that a guy like Igor Milicic is just producing more and more valuable to the team, and he's on the bench and Chaz Lanier stays in the game, that you're managing the game poorly. And I'm not questioning Rick Barnes. I obviously know a lot less about basketball than Rick Barnes. That's obvious. But I think, like, when something's not working and you continue to try to, like, make it work, especially when Chaz has shown, dude, he's a very streaky game in, game out shooter. It's not like... That's why I say you really know right when he shoots his first 3 if it's going to be a good game or not, because it's like he doesn't typically fix it. When he has a terrible first half, he's in for a terrible second half most of the time. Now, the opposite's true. Usually when he starts hot, he ends hot. Like, he's just that kind of player. But you have to be able to read the room, man. You got a guy who is, like, 16 for 9, man. 16 for 9. This dude is bringing so much to the table, and he's playing less. And it's just that was the biggest frustration for me. There was a lot of frustrating thing in the Kentucky game. That and the fact that Kentucky couldn't miss, and of course they got the favorable whistle. They're at Kentucky, so I get that. But yeah, it was a frustrating loss because it feels like if the game was managed just like the last Kentucky game, man. It's if the game was managed a little bit differently, it feels like we could have come out on top in those games.
Could have had a different result potentially, and you got to wonder when analytics start coming into play, right? Of like, and I don't know the first thing about analytics in basketball, but surely there's a point where you realize, there's got to be some sort of data on, to your point about, okay, if Chaz is not having a great shooting night, then there's a certain point where you're like, okay, he's not going to have a good shooting night tonight. So we need to adjust, and we need to get, whether it's Zakai or Igor, giving them more chances. We need to be able to adjust, and because to me, the high amount of shots that Chaz had is, again, like you said, it's a liability. If he does not have a good percentage and he's shooting he's using that many possessions, right? Take away half of his shots, give them to someone else who is able to score points, and all of a sudden you've made up the 10-point deficit that you're in, or 9-point deficit, or whatever. I mean, so it's just, yeah. I mean, I 100% agree with you that in terms of the game management, and it's just it's so weird. Like, what, I don't know if I've ever experienced something like this in a basketball season where we have this player who's so streaky and is, again, like we're talking about, a situation where it's almost a liability of like, okay, if he has a bad night, then we're likely to lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the Kentucky series too, man. I think Rick Barnes was outcoached in this series this year. I think that's just the reality. Every game, like if you go back to our home, which we didn't do a review for that game because we were irritated after that game as well, but if you go back to that game, that's the game where we were in it. Kentucky stopped hitting shots at the end of the game, and we were down by 6, but we acted like we were down by 50, just jacking up threes.
Right.
The game flow felt like this too. Like, even though Kentucky really never went on a stretch of not being able to hit a shot in this game, we were still in it at the end of the game. Like, it was a very, it was like 5-point deficit at some point. And so why is Jordan Gainey and Chaz Lanier going to take 3-point shots? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just that didn't make sense to me. A lot of the second half, it really didn't. It just felt like we kind of abandoned the game plan. Like, I don't know. I feels like Art Parr and Cade Phillips could have got involved more. Like, early, they looked really good. They were doing a lot of good things in the paint, and they just kind of abandoned it, dude. And they went back to this like, oh man, we're down. Kentucky's shooting really well, so we have to be able to match that, or we're not gonna be able to win. So yeah, I think it's fair. Although it's obvious for me to say I don't know more about basketball than Rick Barnes, I think it's fair to say he did get outcoached by Pope in the Kentucky games this year. I think that's really. I think it's fair to say.
100%. Yeah, for sure. Oh, well, I mean, the result speaks for itself, right? Because, again, this is the first time in a long time that I can remember. Again, I could be misremembering a year in the recent past, but I don't remember a year in recent memory that we've dropped both games to them.
Yeah.
We've split the year in the regular season. We've split the year several times, and we've beaten them both times several times, but I do not recall a year in recent memory where we've dropped both games to them. So definitely sucks. I think look, I'm not ready to jump fully on your wagon at the beginning when you said, hey, congratulations to Kentucky fans that you're better than us in one sport this year. I will give in to that if we don't make it further in the tournament. But at the end of the day, it sucks that we dropped 2 to Kentucky. But hey man, how far are we going to get in that tournament? How
Yeah,
far are
that's
we
what
going to
matters.
get in the SEC tournament, and how far are we going to get in the big dance, right? And yeah, that's ultimately what matters. But speaking of that, dropping and I mentioned this to you earlier in the week, like dropping these two games to Kentucky, it's things like this that are going to hurt us come seeding time, right? I mean,
Yeah,
we need these wins to get that number one seed. And I
exactly.
think these two losses to Kentucky is probably dropping us into a two seed territory right now.
I would say yes. I'm not positive how it's going to shake out, but I mean Florida just got that huge win against Auburn. That's really going to hurt us because at the end of the day, the Florida games balance each other out, and we lost to Auburn and they didn't, and they looked really good against Auburn. And I think they beat Kentucky. I could be wrong about that. Maybe they lost to Kentucky. But yeah, I mean it's unfortunate, dude. It's going to be a fight for the number one seed. Still got the Alabama game coming up. That could really be a deciding factor between who gets
Yep.
that one seed. Obviously, you have the SEC tournament. A lot of basketball to be played. But at the end of the day, I mean, or really, it's also kind of coming down to the end here. Like we got I think 6 regular season games left, in the
I'll tell you.
SEC tournament. So it's, I mean, like these games are definitely mattering. And listen, like dropping, it was really the first game, in TBA against Kentucky that we probably should have won. Losing on the road doesn't, because like the refing in this game was pretty one sided, but it's to be expected. Like we expect that on the road in the SEC. That's just the nature of basketball. What I've come to learn, especially college basketball. Um, so yeah, I mean it's unfortunate, but yeah, maybe we'll get him back in the SEC tournament.
We hope so. Yes, there are six regular season games left. The next one will be against Vanderbilt, a rematch against Vanderbilt that we've got coming up in Thompson Bowling Arena. And then we've got obviously no SEC team is a pushover. Ole Miss is still a good basketball team. We've got them coming up. And then, of course, like you said, we've got a big game against Alabama, which if we can win against Alabama, that will be huge for our resume, for sure. And
Definitely.
honestly, I think in a lot of ways we need to. We really can't drop this Vander. I mean, look, put it this way: if we lose to another unranked team, then we're definitely not getting a one seed, in my opinion. Especially if we lose both games in the regular season to Vanderbilt, if we drop this one against them, I think it's really going to almost didn't pretty much nullify any chance that we have at a one seed. Again,
Yeah,
Vanderbilt
gotta
coming
beat
up
Vandy.
on Saturday. Gotta beat them.
Vandy's tough though, man. Vandy
They
hung in
are.
there with Auburn for a while. I was watching a little bit of that game on, I think this past weekend. Um, if not, no, actually I think it was on Tuesday night. Doesn't matter. Yeah, so yeah, Vanderbilt's gonna be tough, but it is at home, so I think we should be able to get them back at home.
Surely, surely we'll be able to knock them off in Thompson Bowling Arena. Shouldn't have dropped that first one to them on the road, but such is the way of SC basketball this year. It is a tough conference
Very
in
tough. Oh, dude, there's
in
this
basketball.
idiot.
So
There's this idiot announcer. During I forget. I think it was during an SEC game. Could be wrong about that, but he was like, "Yeah, the SEC is 500 this year, and like overall in conference play or whatever. So there's like not really any dominant teams." I'm like,
are you?
can you not like think of a reason why possibly they're 500? Is it possibly because it's the best conference in basketball and it's the deepest conference in basketball and literally annihilated every other out of conference, like everybody was
Yeah.
winning out of conference matchups in the SEC. It's why the SEC dominates the top 10, dude. I mean, it was such an idiot. That dude is getting absolutely clowned all over the place. I also think in
It amazes
fairness,
me, dude. So how some people get these jobs in sports. Honestly,
well, and that's
it
why
amazes me.
I was thinking when I was hearing it though, I was like, I feel like he's trying to say something else and it's coming off a different way. Like I think his point was, I don't know what his point was. Maybe it was like it was the conference is wide open and like
Yeah, yeah.
anybody can take it, and maybe he was trying to make a point about the depth of the conference more so than like the teams suck. But who knows? I mean, but it was a weird thing to say considering SEC is like consensus best basketball conference this season.
Yeah, for sure. Very bizarre, but at the end of the day, it's what we've got. We're in this SEC. You got to win, and so we can't make excuses. And so with few games left on our schedule, you got to win the games you need to, and really you got to win, or you got to win the games that you're supposed to, I should say, and really you got to win the big games that we have left, including against Alabama and Ole Miss and everything else. So we'll keep a pulse on that for you folks. As always, basketball season is well underway. We're almost through the regular season, and then it'll be time for the tournaments, which are going to be a lot of fun. But Austin, at the same time as the tournaments, we will be wading into baseball season. In fact, baseball season starts on today, well, the day that this episode is going to be dropping, which is Valentine's Day, which, quick shout out to all the Valentines out there. Rachel, love you. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day to all of our listeners.
Yeah, I don't think Rachel will be watching. I don't think any of our Valentines will be watching. Yeah. So we'll move on past that. But yeah, baseball season's tomorrow, man. Tomorrow for us, today for y'all. I think the game starts at 2:30. I will be watching. Just to let my boss know, I will be watching in the middle of the workday.
Okay, our wives don't watch, but your boss does. Is that what
no? My boss doesn't watch. I'm just saying it out into the ether and on Ball Talk, and so he has no excuse. Like if he's like, "Oh, why are you watching baseball?" It's like, dude, I'll let you know beforehand. If you didn't get the message, that's on you. You should have been a Ball Talk subscriber. You should have had a notification bell on. You should have left a comment like Blake always asks for every week, but you didn't. So that's on you. But I will be watching baseball tomorrow. I'm excited, dude. I'm excited to learn the lineup. I haven't really looked into the lineup. I'll be completely honest. I know a couple guys that will be in the lineup. I know Dean Curley's back. I know Hunter Inslee, of course, is back. Big returners. So yeah, man. There's a lot of guys I want to learn. A lot of new faces this year. A lot of returning faces as well. Excited to learn the pitching staff. See what that looks like. See what the rotation's going to be, the weekend rotation. I will say, though, I think I touched on this last episode, that it's the first couple of games are kind of like, opponents, you know what I'm saying? It's not... There's one fun out-of-conference tournament we're playing in. We actually won a tournament like that last year. So I will definitely be covering that. When it comes around. As far as like a lot of these little smaller opponents, we might touch on it briefly, but not like full game previews and reviews and stuff. But once conference play starts, definitely we'll do series reviews and previews and things like that. Very excited to get into all that, and we'll see what our baseball cadence looks like. But maybe an episode preview review. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, excited for baseball season, man. And I'm not predicting two-peat. That's insane in baseball. That's really crazy.
It is. I was gonna say, yeah, it's not likely in baseball, but we're gonna be hoping for it.
Yeah, but I will predict. I think we're gonna get back to Omaha, man. I think Vitale. Well, I mean, that's a big accomplishment, dude. That's like getting a Final Four in basketball, dude. It's a massive accomplishment. But I mean, Vitale is that kind of coach, man. He elevates his guys. Like he's a really good recruiter. There's a lot of young talent in the roster too that we're gonna be learning in the next couple of months. But yeah, I mean, I think Tony V is the kind of guy. He's gonna be in Omaha year in, year out. So I mean, I don't expect it. Like if we miss Omaha this year, it's not like oh man, panic time. It's very tough to make Omaha. But I do think it will happen because, like I said, Tony Vitale is such an insanely good coach. And it's not like we're void of talent. We got some dudes coming back. So yeah, man, excited overall for the baseball season.
It's not like it's a complete rebuild, but to your point, it's in college baseball, it's just incredibly difficult to repeat, and like you said, even to get to Omaha. But I agree with you. I think we're going to get there, and once you get to Omaha, I mean, anything can happen.
You never know,
right?
You never know. Well, I mean, we saw that last year, dude. We had our backs against the wall last year. Me and Blake were actually on vacation during the Florida State series, and dude, I mean, one of the craziest comebacks of all time. I'll never forget that comeback in that first Florida State game. But yeah, dude. I mean, once you get there, it is anyone's ball game, like you said. It's just about getting there. And who, like, you never know too, because there's so many question marks about this team. I'm not saying it could be better than last year's team, but it's in the realm of possibilities. It could be significantly worse too. That's also within the like.
That is possible.
I'm just talking out my ass here, but that's all in the realm of possibilities. But like it's a lot of new guys to learn because we lost a lot of talent. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
a lot of talent, a lot of guys to replace, and we'll see how he replaces them, man. But I've talked about this on past shows as well. But Vitello is like an insane recruiter, dude. I mean, I'm talking like Nick Saban level recruiter, but in baseball. This dude is getting
Yep.
top 3 classes every single year. So yeah, I mean, I expect us to reload, man, and be right back in it.
We've got some nice transfers too, in addition to the new recruits, and I think I just saw, I believe it was the transfer from UNC that is suing the NCAA. Yeah,
They're trembling
for
now. A Tennessee Vols suing the
eligible.
NCAA.
Oh yeah, dude. When they see that power T on that lawsuit paperwork, they're tucking their tail and they're calling their lawyer up and saying, "Hey, get us the best deal you can find." All right, because we got to get out this one,
Yeah.
with something, if anything. So anyway, but like you said, yeah, Vitello's an insane recruiter, because he's a great coach, and then obviously he's got the charisma and people. It's not just he. To me, he's the perfect NIL era recruiting coach, right? Because it's like, obviously he's winning. Obviously we've got money, but then also he's just, these dudes want to play for him because he's fun to
Yeah.
play for, So,
Well,
but
I think he's the difference between NIL and not having it. Like Tony Vitello makes up the gap if you don't have enough money because like
exactly.
it. I mean, it really like he would be a great recruiter without the NIL. He's just that kind of guy. Guys want to play for him. So yeah, I mean, he is a fantastic recruiter. So
Well, and you said it better than I did because yeah, it's he's that perfect coach for the NIL era. He, like you said, he would be a great recruiter before NIL, but we've talked about in football, it's like, man, okay, if we don't have the money that an Ohio State does, we got to have something to make up that gap, right? And the fact of the matter is even in baseball, right, we're not going to have the resources, say, that schools out in Texas do and things like that. But Vitello makes up that gap because it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to get the money, but you're also going to be coming to, play for Tony V, and
yeah,
that's who
exactly.
everyone wants to play for. So
Best coach in college baseball.
absolutely, 110%. So we're excited to cover baseball for y'all this season, folks. Like Austin said, we'll determine the cadence, and we'll figure out that rhythm. We're still kind of knee deep in basketball season right now, heading into March Madness, and so that will continue to be the focal point for a little bit. But we do want to cover baseball. We know that a lot of you all cover or care about baseball as well. We know we got a lot of baseball fans watching, or just folks in general who like Tennessee sports. And hey, we're reigning national champions in baseball, so of course and it's a fun team to watch. Any Tony V team is a fun team to watch, and honestly, in my opinion, college baseball in general is
A
more fun to
very
watch than
fun
majors.
sport. Yeah,
Uh,
I totally
and
agree.
well, and like yeah, exactly like you just said, it's a fun sport in general.
Mm.
It's fun to watch. So we're looking forward to that, folks. Again, the season is starting today. This episode will be dropping on Friday morning, and so will potentially be watching sometime throughout the day on Friday. You might even be watching when the game has already started. So baseball season has officially kicked off, and we are looking forward to covering that with y'all. And again, basketball, we're going to keep a pulse on that. We've got, again, Vanderbilt coming up on Saturday. And then we've got a whole week off before the next game for basketball. So we'll probably just be dropping one episode next week as well. Would you say that's probably true, Austin? One
Yes,
episode next week?
I will say at some point we're gonna start covering balls in the NFL draft.
Oh, yeah.
I want to have at least one episode, if not a couple episodes on that. Maybe one pre-combine, one post-combine, something like that. Um,
got a little
Sorry,
cough break here,
had to
folks.
cough.
So,
But
hey, we warned him. We warned
yeah,
him.
we
We're
did, we
still
did,
trying.
and we're
We're
almost
not
through the
100%.
episode. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, I want to cover Tennessee Vols in the draft. We have a lot of guys that are draft eligible and going to get drafted and drafted high. Mainly James Pierce Jr. and we'll see how he does at the combine. So, and we'll probably have Dakota on this for those episodes at some point. But just wanted to keep that on top of mind. That is coming down the line here soon because it is draft season.
It is draft season, and we know that our fans are, of course, primarily our fan. I say our fans. We've got subscribers. I don't know if we've got fans yet.
Yeah,
Our
that's a better way to
subscriber,
put it.
our subscribers care a lot about Vol football and of course how they're going to do in the NFL draft. So we're looking forward to having Dakota back on. It's been a while since he has joined us for an episode. Last episode he joined us for was when the playoffs were happening in football. So be good to have him back, and yeah, looking forward to seeing that. Especially, I mean, what's the latest? I know you mentioned, Austin, that kind of might really depend on that combine for James Pierce Jr. But what's it looking like right now in terms of where he might land?
It's so tough to say, dude, because there's so many good edge rushers in this class, and different outlets have them going different places. I would be shocked if he fell out of the first round at this point. I don't think that's going to happen. It's a possibility. You never know. Again, the combine is going to mean so much. Like if he runs a 4.3, expect him to go in the top 10. That's going to happen. But if he runs a 4.5, okay, 4.5, maybe that could drop him out. And if he runs a 4.6, that's a good way to get dropped out of the first round. That 40 is going to matter a whole lot. There is no way he runs a 4.6. I would be flabbergasted if James Pierce run a 4.6. I mean, I would just be floored if that happened. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. But I mean, it ranges anywhere from top 10 to fringe first rounder into early second rounder. I mean, that's my projection right now. But like I said, a lot of different outlets have him going to a lot of different places. But
Definitely be looking forward to seeing how he does at the combine. And like you said, we got a couple different Vols that we'll be keeping an eye on with the NFL draft. So as always, folks, we are keeping an eye on everything Vol sports for you, and we're just chatting about it. We want to know what your thoughts are too. So again, hit us up in the comments. Let us know what you think about baseball season coming up. Let us know what you think about the NFL draft coming up and how our Vols are going to do. And let us know what you think about the basketball team in terms of, hey, where are we at right now with the seeding and what is the outlook for the rest of the season. We'll be keeping an eye on the upcoming Vanderbilt game. Austin, any other final thoughts on any Vol sports or anything Vol?
no, man, just go Vols, baby.
Go Vols, baby, as usual. Folks, again, we will catch you on the other side of the Vanderbilt game coming up this Saturday. Until then, go Vols.
GBO.